Okay. So yesterday, at the end of the day, we were learning, according to Rabbi Yehuda, who holds that what could make somebody into a Zokim Mamri is only Torah Asher Yerucha, where the main mitzvah is mentioned in the Torah, and then the Rabbanon darshan it to clarify the mitzvah. That's the type of mitzvah that a Zokim Mamri would be condemned for. And then there was a shaila. Does that mean only by mitzvah saseh, by mitzvah saseh? Because the Gemara seems to say that it's only relevant in one case of when the Zokan Mamre was instructing people to add a fifth parsha or fifth bias to their tefillin shel rosh. So there are those Rishonim who say that's when it's a mitzvah saseh, because otherwise there isn't any mitzvah saseh where it would be relevant to a Zokan Mamre, because there's no chiyuv in there. That's what some say. Now the Gemara looked at tefillin. The Gemara looked at tzitzis, and the Gemara looked at lulav. And the distinction that the Gemara made between them was that both by lulav and by tzitzis, if they have to be bound together, then it was never four and then a fifth was added. And if they don't have to be bound together, then we never look like it's added at all. It's just an extra piece there that's not part of the bundle. Tefillin is different, because even if it's not part of the bundle, that fifth bias will block one of the other four. And one of the other four that are blocked makes it possible. But Tosfos is an interesting question, which sort of changes what's going on over here. Because Tosfos asks towards the bottom of Tosfos on Peches and Beis, Umiyu Tema Frek Tosfos. Amai loy mashkach lulav. I have a way where lulav is ogud lechatchila, and then you add to the igud. Amai loy mishkach lulav l'Rabbi Yehuda b'chihai gab. In the following case, she'agad gimel minim b'fnei. You tie the lulav and the adasim and the ravas together, like we have it. The nasa b'kashrus. Now the bundle was made b'kashrus. The achakach agad imoim minacher, and then you tied a fourth to it. So that's mamashik is tabli moshev gereya, because you won't say that it's a whole new bundle. No, you left the original bundle intact, and now you tied another bundle to it. So that would fit in just like the case of tefillin. So why wouldn't this be a good example of a case where there would be a zakamam, right? V'yesh lomer zaktois is a fascinating thing. Kivan de kodim netilosai nifsal. Since before he shakes the lulav, there's already this added min, so which makes the whole bundle possible. That's havalei geruah v'oimid. It doesn't matter when you're putting the bundle together. It all matters as what the situation is when you're picking it up to be Mekayim the mitzvah. When you're picking it up to be Mekayim the mitzvah with that extra min added, we call that ruva image. You're not adding to something that you're Mekayim the mitzvah with. You're never Mekayim the mitzvah. Avol tefillin eminichon beroishoy bekashrus. If the tefillin is already on you and you're wearing tefillin and you're in the middle of being Mekayim the mitzvah of wearing tefillin, and then while you're wearing the tefillin, v'niach gabayu bayis chamishi, you added the fifth bias. Now you're breaking the mitzvah. You're in the middle of doing the mitzvah, and now this is stopping the mitzvah. It's mevatel your tefillin shal roish, umevatel mitzvah shal roishay. Well, like dami the lulav, you cannot compare it to lulav. Dim not loy. If you picked up the lulav and then while you're holding on to it, you added minchamishi, that doesn't do anything. You know why? Because the moment you picked it up, the agbe with the four, novakbe, you were already outside. So Tosfos says that whole discussion here is if it's while it's on you, while you have tefillin on you, you're in the process of being Mekayim a mitzvah every minute. So therefore, you were being Mekayim a mitzvah with the four bottom, and then when the fifth one is added, the mitzvah stops. By lulav, it's a flash when you pick it up. So when you pick it up, did it have the extra min or not? If it had the extra min, you never were yaitza. And if it had the extra min, yaitza, adding another min later doesn't make a difference because you were already yaitza. So therefore, there's that distinction, which is interesting because that makes the whole thing, that changes the whole perspective of what's going on over here. And we're speaking about film that was on the set. Okay, that takes us to the Mishnah, which is where we're up to on Pei Tesam Aleph. Ein memisa noisai. This zakein mamrei, you don't kill him. Loy bebezdin shebeirei. He doesn't get killed in the bezdin that's in his city. V'loy bebezdin shebeyavna, and not in the bezdin of Yavna. We know I think if Yochanan said ten liyavne v'chachameha, the Bezdin during the before the Churban, I think it was during the rule of the Babylonians, they relocated to Yavne. Rather, Elamailin Oisoi leBezdin Agadol. The person has to go to the Bezdin Agadol, should be Yerushalayim, the main Bezdin, and they don't kill him right away. Umishamrim Oisoi ad haregel. They keep him waiting until the Yom Tov, where there'll be a crowd there. Umamisin Oisoi beregel. And they kill him davke in Yom Tov when everyone's there. Shenemar, because in relation to the Misa of a Zokan Mamre, the Torah says, V'cholahom yishmu v'yiro. Everyone should hear about it and fear v'lo yazid noid, and this will be a deterrent from such affairs occurring. Divrei Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yehuda says, Ein ma'anan es dina shoseh. You're not allowed to make somebody sit and wait in fear on death row. The Misa has to be carried out right away. How are you being Mekayim v'cholahom yishmu v'yiro? They send out a proclamation, a press release to everywhere in the Jewish neighborhoods. Ish ployni, this person, mischayev misa bevezin, he was chayev. Why? Because he was a zaken mamre. So let's figure out what happened with this yavna here. So Rashi says, Kol Yisrael Yishmu tzarich lashmiya misosei l'rabim. This misa must be publicized. Shalayasa odom oid came. So no one should do anything like that. And again, it should be a deterrent. Loi bebezdin shabi yavna. Im nishalu lebezdin. Shabalishkas agoses. Now we already know that the Mokum is goyim. So they had to have went through the lishkas agoses in order for this person to have become a zaken mamre. Because unless the psak was issued at the Sanhedrin Agadol by the lishkas agoses, this person does not qualify as a zaken mamre. So they must have went to the lishkas agoses. And then v'chazor li'iroi yom v'shah yomim ad to Gaza Sanhedrin Gedolah liyavna. Then he went back to the city, and that's when he violated by reoffending. But by that point, the Sanhedrin was no longer in Yavna. The Sanhedrin was no longer in the Lishkas Agazos. They had already moved out and transferred to Yavna. But the Beis HaMikdash was still standing. The Acharikein Horikavat Chilo. So Rashi changed the order from what I said. First, the Bezdin moved out of the Beis HaMikdash to Yavna. Then he violated by reoffending, by once again paskening against the instruction of the Bezdin Gadol. So right now the Bezdin is in Yavna. You don't kill him in Yavna. Even though right now that's where the Sanhedrin Gedolah are located. There's never going to be a crowd in Yavna. And the Misa has to be carried out where there is a crowd. Okay, let's have a look at Tosfos. Pirish B'Kuntres, what would be the scenario where you might want to kill him by the Lishkas, by the Bezdin of Yavna? The original Shaila was posed to Bezdin when they were in Al Makaimam, in the Lishkas Agazos, were Amulahem, and they paskened. He went back to his town. In the meantime, the Sanhedrin went into Golos and relocated to Yavna. Breg Tosh a tema. The Soif, Kishimamtina Taregel, if they wait all the way until Yom Tov, Heich Mamisin. How could they kill him even on the Yom Tov? Hakivin the Golos Sanhedrin, Lamaji the Sanhedrin is not back anymore. So in order for them to pasken on him, Achiv Misa, it says Ein Donin Din Nefashis. Once the Sanhedrin is no longer in the Beis HaMikdash, they're relocated to Yavna, they can no longer condemn him. So practically speaking, this couldn't have occurred because we need the Bezdin in the Lishkas Agazos to paskin that he's Chayiv Misa in order to be able to kill him. And once the Sanhedrin is no longer in the Lishkas Agazos, there is no more din of Misa. So who condemned this person, this Zaken Mamre, to death? If you're going to suggest that even when Sanhedrin went into Golos and they were in Yavna, the Beregel Choizrim Bezdin Agadol, the Yoshvim Belishkas Agazos, Af Lachash Agadol, if you're going to say that even when Sanhedrin went into Golos and they went to Yavna, for Yom Tov, they still went back to the Lishkas Agazos, and that's when they paskin that he should be killed. You cannot say that. Chada, number one, is the Mkain Mishkachas Leila Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai to have a Sanhedrin. That means it's possible that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was in the Sanhedrin because it's Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai who asked them to go to Yavne. He's told the king, Tendel Yavne v'chachamel. But over Perko Yiboitkin, loy mashim hachi. In Perko Yiboitkin, it's mashma. That's not the case. V'oid, my inu hadin yesh. How is there inu hadin? Because what Rabbi Yehuda says, how could you be ma'anir hadin? But there is no inu hadin. You know why? You know when there's inu hadin? If after the verdict was already announced, he knows he's on death row, then you have to carry out the verdict right away. But while they're deliberating, meaning they couldn't paskin on him anyway till Yom Tov, till the Bezin moved back from Yavne to the Lishkas HaGozos for Yom Tov, that's not called Inu Hadin, that's called deliberation. The Parach L'Gemurur L'Dinei B'Shabbato, right? We learned at the beginning of the Masechta when we were talking about that they don't paskin on Friday. So the Gemara asked why not. The Gemara said because they have to wait overnight to paskin to condemn somebody to death. So the Gemara asked the Gemurur L'Dinei B'Shabbato, let them do the Gemara Din on Shabbos. Let them kill him. Umeshani, the Gemara answered, Atama Ana Esdinoi. You're going to have to make him wait from Shabbos to Sunday, and that's Inu Hadin. After the verdict happens on Shabbos, you're going to have to make him wait till Sunday. But then the Gemara asks, let's pass it on him on Erev Shabbos. And the Gemara says that the Gemara Din should be on Sunday. That wasn't the problem. In other words, during the deliberations, while they're deciding, that's not a problem of Inu Hadin. So the way Tosfos wants to learn now that the psak would have been issued in the Lishkas HaGozos, then why is Rabbi Yehuda arguing and saying that this is Inu Hadin? But my area Zaken Mamre, it's not only Zaken Mamre, Bishar Averis Nami, every Avera, they would wait till the regel because the Bezin can't pass until the Lishkas HaGozos. It sounds from our mission that we're discussing a unique situation that applies only to a Zaken Mamre. Void amay nachad yavna. What's up is yavna? Lema loy bebezdin shebechanuzit. Any bezdin anywhere you can't use. Only the bezdin in Lishkas HaGozos. It sounds like there's some issue with the bezdin of yavna. V'doichik loymar the avera the kodim shegolsos Sanhedrin donin apla acher shegolso. You can't say that on an avera that occurred before the Sanhedrin went to Golos, you're allowed to paskin on even after they went into Golos. And you don't say Malkam Gorim. In other words, maybe they could paskin elsewhere, even in Yavne. You don't say that. Even the B'Shas Avera, Sanhedrin Del B'Mchem. That's a doichik to say. So if Rabbeinu Tam Omer, you know what Rabbeinu Tam says? The Mari Kishen Nigmar Dina Kodim Shegolso Sanhedrin. What happened is there was a Gemar Din. So what happened was they paskin the Lishkas HaGozos. He went back home, and they were still in the Lishkas HaGozos. He violated again. Then he went back to Bezin, and they condemned him. But before they could kill him, they went into Golos. And they were in Yavne. Therefore, they can't kill him. They have to wait till they're back in the Lishkas HaGozos. So that's how Tosfos explains what's going on. Okay, Zok to Gemara weiter. So how would they publicize it if it wouldn't be in the Beis HaMikdash where everyone's there gathered for Yom Tov? They would have to send out a proclamation, a press release, so everyone should know what occurred. Tanur says in the Brisa, not in his local Bezdin, and not in the Bezdin of Yavne, and they would take the Zaken Mamre to the great Bezdin of Yerushalayim, they would lock him up and wait until the regel, and when did they kill him? By the regel, where everyone would be there. Yishmu v'yiro divrei Rabbi Akiva. Amar Yehuda. V'chinemar yiru v'yiro. Does it say they will hear, they will see and witness the misa, and then they will be afraid? No. V'aloinemar el yishmu v'yiro. They will hear what happened, and merely hearing that press release will make them fear that they shouldn't copy this avera. So therefore, it doesn't say in the pasuk that everybody has to see. It says in the pasuk everybody has to be aware of it. So how could you make this guy wait so long and torture him, waiting for his death? We don't do this to him. we kill him right away. We don't make him wait until the regal. But after they kill him, the koisvin, the sholchin, the chamokim, ish pleni nischayev misa bevest, and by everybody hearing about it, that's the yishmu v'yiro. They'll be afraid they won't do anything like that again. There are 4 people that require hachrosa. One of them is a mesis. Uben Sarumer. The second one is a Ben Sarumer. The third one is a Zaken Mamre, and the fourth one is Edim Zaymin. How do we know this? Because B'chuluk Sivu, in all of these 4 cases, the Torah says something, either B'chol Am Yishmu V'Yiro, or B'chol Yisrael Yishmu V'Yiro. Let's have a look at the psukim inside. Either it'll say B'chol Am Yishmu V'Yiro, or B'chol Yisrael Yishmu V'Yiro. So in either case, it says that. B'Edim Zaymin, and by Edim Zaymin, it doesn't say B'chol Yisrael. It doesn't say B'chol Am. It just says Vanish Arim Yishmu V'Yiro. The rest of the people. Why did it use such an interesting language? Because not everybody is kosher ladies. Rashi, you can have a ganev, you can have a malva baribis, you can have an isha, you can have an eved. There's many people who this is not relevant for them. So it's not v'chol am yishmu v'yiro, because they couldn't say edus anyway. Only people who are eligible to say edus, they need to get this warning to see the Edom Zayim being killed, so that they should know they should do it again. So that's why it says Nisharim, meaning other people who would have otherwise been eligible to say Edus, let them know about this so that they shouldn't say false Edus. So the Kula Alma Chazal Sadus, so not everybody could say Edus. So the obvious kasha here is a Zaken Mamre. A Zaken has to be a member of the Sanhedrin. So if a Zaken Mamre has to be a member of the Sanhedrin, it's not relevant for B'chol Yisrael either. So just like by Edom Zayim, the Gemara tells us the Torah uses Vanisharim because we're only speaking to a limited class of people. By a Zaken Mamre, we're speaking even to a smaller class of people, only people that could be Dayanim. So why did it say B'chol Yisrael? So I hope I'll remember the teretz properly. But one thing we have to mention is the Ramban says that what's unique about these 4 averos, that they require a charaza and not Chil Shabbos, not anything else, is because these 4 averos undermine the continuity and the survival of Klal Yisrael. A mesis is wanting to make people leave the Rebbeinu Shalom. That definitely will undermine the survival of Klal Yisrael. A Mensari Meir, we learned one of the reasons why he gets killed is because he's breaking the Messiah. He doesn't want to listen to his parents. Someone who's breaking Messiah, which is what Yiddishkeit relies upon for continuity, that's a threat to the very existence of the survival of Klal Yisrael. Zaken Mamre is very similar. It's undermining the Koyach HaBezdin, which is what gives us our unity. We don't splinter into a million factions because we have one ruling body that sets us up. As a matter of fact, I think the Rambam puts Ben Sarah Murray and Zaken Mamre into one category, even though nowhere in the Torah they put into that one category. The Rambam made up his own category called, I think, Hilchos Mamre, and he himself put Ben Sarah Murray and Zaken Mamre to them because they're both threats to the continuity of Klal Yisrael. And I will add that what David Zolti said about Purim, that the only way Klal Yisrael could survive in a gullus and not get totally splintered, so that we will be ready to take Mashiach and move into our next stage, is only by following blindly and accepting fully the guidance of our Chazal, of our Rabbanim, of the Yiddish authority in those times. Zaken Mamre undermines that completely and threatens the very existence of Klal Yisrael. And it's the same thing with Edom Zayim. If our whole legal system is going to be corrupted, that will undermine our society completely. That's why these 4 are so severe that they require a hachraza. Now back to the first question, which is, why is it that it says V'chol Yisrael in reference to a Zaken Mamre, when the Zaken Mamre is also only relevant to a limited class of people? Well, the answer is based on what we said. Since listening to a Bezdin is so important in order for us to have continuity as Klal Yisrael, and we won't be in the matter where we can go to the Gula with it. That's so important that even though you're not eligible to be a dayan, you still have to have the Yishma V'Yiro, because we need to hammer home into everyone's minds the fact that we need our Batadinim and to follow them closely and listen to what they say. Otherwise, Klal Yisrael won't have a kiyum. So it's hammering home a much larger message than just the message of the Zak and Mamre. It's hammering home the general, the general concept that we need our Batadinim and to follow them precisely in order to be able to continue as Yidden and eventually reach the Gula Hasidah. Okay, gewaltig. Zogt a hele gemor weiter. Novi HaSheker, a Novi HaSheker is someone who gets chenek. And what is that? That's a misnabe mashaloi sham. That's someone who said a nevuah that he never heard. He made up a nevuah. Umashaloi namarloi. Or what if nevuah was received by his friend? So it's a legit nevuah, but it wasn't told to him. He's not allowed to repeat it. Misasoi b'dei adam. He gets the bisa of chenek. What if Kadosh Baruch Hu told him to give a nevuah and he didn't give it over? We have a perfect example of that. That's Yoina, right? Yoina was told to say over nevuah and he didn't want to do that. Or if he doesn't want to accept the words of the Navi. Rashi says, "Hamafkira." He's mafkir them. He ignores what the Navi tells him. So this would be relevant if a Navi told him, instructed him to do something, and he doesn't want to do it. Or the Navi who didn't even listen to what he said himself, he's also Chayv Misa, but not b'dei Adam, Misasai b'dei Shemayim. Shenemar says in the pasuk, Anoichi Edrei Shmimai. HaKadosh Baruch said, I will collect from him. It says, V'haya ish asher lo yishma el devarai, asher yudaber b'shmi, Anoichi Edrei Shmimai. I will take care of him. So this is not a Misa b'dei Adam, it's a Misa b'dei Shemayim. What about a Mesnabe b'shem avodas kacham? He says nevuah over in the name of an avodah zarah. Now it's hard to say that should be a chiv misa. Baal Pa'or said ABC, but there are Rishonim who explain how Mesnabe b'shem avodas kacham mean I believe Baal Pa'or is the real God, and he said this. So you have to proclaim him as a God in order for you to be over Mesnabe b'shem avodas kacham. But that's only some Rishonim. V'yomer, and he said kach omra avodas kacham. This is what the Baal Pa'or said. Even if what he said is emes. He said the Baal Pa'or said that this is Tomei. The Baal Pa'or said that if a sheretz touches a food, it's Tomei. It's a true halacha. The Baal Pa'or said that if this fruit didn't get wet and wasn't hukshu a kabel Tomei, it won't become Tomei. So he's saying over an emes azach, but he's saying it over in the name of the Baal Pa'or, in the name of an avodah zarah. There's also a chiyuv mitzvah for that. However, like I said, some Rishonim say it's only if he declares that Getchka is a god. Habal Eishes. We know someone who's a Baal Eishes, they get chenek as well. What makes her an Eishes that downgrades her from Skila as a Naira Hamurasa to chenek as an Eishes? Given she nichnas al Shusa Baal Nulasuin. The moment she came under the chuppah, even though she's not a Ba'ulia, she could still be a Basula, but she's a Nesua. That downgrades her misa from skila to chenek, abala reza v'chenek. Who else is chenek? V'zayim mei bas koyin. If they're edim zayim who said bas koyin was insa, even though she gets shreifa, they get chenek. Uboyala, the person who was boil the bas koyin, even though she's going to get shreifa, the man is going to get chenek. Shekala muzmam makdimin lo oisa misa. Because when you're muzam, you get the misa that you wanted to inflict on the other person. The only Eidei Zaymimin that don't get the same misa that they were inflicting upon the person that they're falsely testifying about are Zaymim Mei Bas Koyin Ubayel. Zokta Heilige Gemara. Taner Rabban. Shloshim Misasim B'di Adam. There are three types of people that are killed by the Adam. We're talking about Nevi'im, V'Shloshim Misasim B'dei Shemayim. Hamesnabi Mashaloi Shama. If someone said nevuah that he made up, he didn't hear it. Or mashaloi nemar loy, or if the nevuah wasn't given to him. All these three people, misasim with the adam, they get chenek. Hakovesh is nevuah, but someone like Yoina Navi who just didn't want to say over his nevuah. Or someone who doesn't listen to the Navi, or a Navi that didn't listen to himself, He saw some b'dei Shemayim, he dies b'dei Shemayim. You know, where do we know from? And now we're going to dash in a lot of psukim and have some interesting stories in Novi that illustrate these things. Amar Bidu Amar Rav. The Amar Kar, the pasuk says, Acha Novi asher yozid l'daber b'shmi. The Novi that b'mezid is going to say something in my name. I'll read it inside. Acha Novi asher yozid l'daber b'shmi es asher lo tzivisav l'daber, that I didn't tell him to do. Asher yudaber b'shem v'asher, or another violation. Asher yudaber b'shem al him acherim umeis hanovi yahu. V'chol misa amur b'Torah zok the Gemara stam. If the Torah says misa, einoi ela chenek. It's always chenek. Hakoyvesh es levuasoi v'mavater al divrei novi v'novi shav al divrei atzmoi. That's misasu b'dei shemayim. The chsiv, it says in the pasuk, and I'll read it inside over here. V'yoish asher lo yishma v'haya ish asher lo yishma el divrei el devarai asher yidaber b'shmi anoichi edr shmi imoi, like we said. Now lo yishma means he won't listen. But what about koybesh es nevuosai? So it says asher lo yishma kri bei lo yashmiya ukri bei lo yishma. Read it both ways. Lo yishma means if you don't listen. Lo yashmi means if you don't make it be heard, if you're not going to publicize the nevuah. El devarai, to my words. Uchsiv anoichi edr shmi imoi, I will monim, which is the Rabbani Shalom, which is b'dei Shemayim. Hambesnabi mashalo shom. What's an example of somebody who said a nevuah over that he never heard? You're going Tzidkiah ben Canaan. Tzidkiah ben Canaan was a novi sheker. And what happened was, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to induce Achav into a battle that he would lose, that he would be killed. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu had to sort of fool Achav into, he was a Rasha Achav, so he deserved to be punished. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu had to fool him to go to war. So a false nevuah was given to Tzidkiah ben Canaan to deliver to Achav. Tzidkiah ben Canaan karnei barz. He made a set of horns that were made out of steel, which would be a symbol that Achav would succeed, so that induced Achav to go to war. Frank Gemara, I don't understand. Why was that an avla that Tzidkiah did? My havla lemevet. Ruach Novois ata isei. The Ruach of Novois came to him and told him this nevuah, so he thought it was a nevuah. So how could you hold Tzidkiah as a Navi, responsible as a Navi Sheker for saying false? It's not fair. How should he have known? A Ruach came to him. Because the pasuk says, "V'yaslo Tzidkiah ben Canaan karnei barzo v'yomer," and he told Achav, "Koyamar Hashem, v'elo tenagach es Aram at kaloisom." With these horns, you're going to destroy Aram. Meaning he was going to be killed by Aram. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to induce him into that war. But why is that Tzidkiah's fault? If a Ruach came to him, he thought it was nevuah. Dichsiv, v'yomer Hashem. Hashem had to put a plan into place. And
why couldn't either HaKadosh Baruch Hu just kill him stum? Give him a heart attack. What do you have to have a whole war about it for?
This is way beyond our pay scale to understand why Hashem did it that way.
Okay, it just doesn't add up.
But this is what happened.
Okay.
And the Navi even records a conversation that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had be'achari apartment, because it says the chsiv, here Hashem. Hashem over here is trying to get Achav to go to war. So I'm going to read the pasuk here inside. V'yem Hashem, mi yafata es Achav. Who is going to convince Achav to go fight the war? V'yal v'yipoil v'ramei skilot. They should go to Ramei skilot and fall. So like David's asking, like Hashem has a problem getting someone to do something, right? But the Navi is sharing with us that Hashem was actually trying to think, who am I going to use to induce Achav to go and fight this war that he'll get killed in? V'yomer they couldn't find anyone who would be used to get Achav. So it says, and then the Ruach came and offered and volunteered to help. The pasuk, I'll go do it. So a spirit came to Hashem and said, I'm willing to do it. So he said back, I'm going to go. I'm going to be a Ruach Sheker in the mouth of all the Nevi'im. Hashem said, go do it. Great idea. Save us, king. So Hashem invoked the spirit of someone who had died. It says, so we have the volunteer, yeah, go do it, you'll succeed. I can go do that. So Amar Rabbi Yehuda might say, what did Hashem mean when he told the Ruach of Novis, say, mean, go out of my area. Stay away from me. My Ruach, who is this Ruach? Amar Rabbi Yehuda was the Ruach Shal Novois HaYisraeli, who I believe Achav killed, so Novis was happy to get back at Achav. Break the Gemara, how could you hold Tzidkiah responsible? The Ruach of Novis came and fooled him. How is he supposed to know? Zok to Gemara, there's a very easy way that he could have known that this was a false nevuah. Because Havalei Lamedek Kiddur Rabbi Yitzchak. The Tzidkiah, the false Navi, should have analyzed what occurred using the halacha that Rabbi Yitzchak taught us. Rabbi Yitzchak, Signain Echad Oile Kam Neviim. Whenever there's a nevuah, the same nevuah, the identical nevuah, is delivered to multiple neviim, but every Navi interprets it in his own way and will present it as in his own way. But never, ever, ever will two Nevi'im deliver the exact same message. Even though they received the same message, they didn't deliver the exact same message. Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky explains, Moshe Rabbeinu's Nevuah was clear. So he knew precisely what Hashem said. So when he said it over, it was precisely what Hashem said. There was no personal interpretation, but all other Nevi'im got it a little bit fuzzy, and therefore the Nevuahs that they received were subject to their interpretation. So it's impossible that two Nevi'im would have exactly the same Nevuah. And what happened over here is, and what happened was, normally you see the same Nevuah that was received by a Navi would be delivered slightly different. For instance, your own heart, your own sinning heart caused you to do this over, and Yirmiyah delivered the same nevuah by saying Tfalotzcha Hesiyascha. Again, that means your own problem, but it was delivered in a slightly different way. So Tfilascha Hesiyascha Zodin Lipcha. So Bahani Midik Amri Kuli Kadodi, all of the Nevi'im that Novice went to say this thing with the Karnei Barzel, they all delivered the identical nevuah word for word. So he should have already known Shema Mina Lav Kum Kam. So Tzidkiah should have known that it's a fake nevuah, because if everyone is saying word for word the nevuah, clearly this is not a real nevuah. Frek the Gemara, who said Tzidkiah Hanavi Sheker? Who said he knew what Rabbi Yitzchak was going to say in the Gemara thousands of years later? Who said that Tzidkiah even knew that rule, that if everyone says the identical nevuah, it's a right that it's fault? Zok to Gemara, he should have known, as sometimes we say in a lawsuit. He knew or ought to have known. Why should he have known? Because Yoshafa, the true Navi, also was there. And he warned everybody. Is there no real Navi here? That all these false Navim are getting around? Let's see what it says here in the pasuk. Is there no real Navi around who we would be able to ask? A real Navi? So they told him, Amalek told him, what do you mean there's no Navi? There's a whole bunch of Navim that are all saying the same Nevuah. So Yoshafa told all these fake Navim, the same nevuah might be delivered to multiple neviim. Never will two neviim repeat the identical statement. They'll all explain it the way they perceived it, and therefore, Tzidkiah should have known that it was a fake nevuah, and that's why Tzidkiah was punished. What's the other case of mitzvah d'shamayim? Hamisnabe ma shaloi nemarloi. Someone says nevuah about something that was not told to him, but it might have been told to somebody else. What's an example of this? Kegoin Chananya ben Azor. The Koi Yirmiyah b'Shuk Ha'elyon. Yirmiyah was in the Shuk Ha'elyon, and Chananya heard something, a nevuah that was told to Yirmiyah. V'Komar Koi Amar Hashem Tzavakos Hinini Shoiver Es Keshes Elam. Hashem gave a nevuah to Yirmiyah that I'm going to break the strength of Elam. Now Chananya didn't hear this nevuah. It went to Yirmiyah, and Chananya on his own decided to deliver that nevuah. And this is what Chananya did. Nazak Chananya kal v'chomer ba'atzma. He made his own kal v'chomer. Ma Elam, Shaloi Ba Ela Lazarus Bavel. Elam wasn't the main force that was trying to attack Klal Yisrael. It was Bavel. Elam was helping them. Yet there was a nevuah that he heard that went to Yirmiyah that said, Omar Kadosh Baruch Hu hinini shayver es keshes Elam. So Hashem is going to destroy someone who merely is going to help our enemy. Surely Hashem is going to destroy our enemy, which was not true. Which wasn't true, because in fact Babel did destroy Eretz Yisrael. It was only Elam, but he made his own Kal V'chomer, and he took a nevuah that was given to Yirmiyah, and he then told everybody, "You have nothing to worry about. They will not be able to hurt us." Allah has come b'kama. So also you b'shuk atachton. So he went to the public. Omar, and he said, "Koyamar Hashem shivarti as oil melech Babel. I killed him." So he basically said over a nevuah that was said to somebody else. Let me just look at the pasuk Nun. Koyamar Hashem shivarti as oil melech Babel. Omar Papa Abaye, I don't understand. You're trying to tell me an example of a nevuah that was said to a different navi, and the wrong navi repeated. So the nevuah was said to navi A, and navi B repeated it. Here navi B didn't repeat it. Navi B made it his own Torah. He made up a whole new thing, right? The navi just said that Elam would fall. That's what Yirmiyah heard. Yet Hananiah went and made up his own new thing, that Baba will fall. So that's not called saying over a nevuah that was to somebody else. That's making up a nevuah. That's a fake nevuah. That's a fake navi. Yirmiyah was never told that Baba would fall. You're right. But given this Yoav Kal V'chomer, Midrash, since he was able to use a Kal V'chomer, it's command the Itmer Le Domi. It's like it was told to him himself, because he was able to make a Kal V'chomer from what was told to Yirmiyah. And that means we consider it a nevuah that was not told to him, rather a nevuah that was told to somebody else, and since he said it over, he died a misa. What about a misnave b'shem avodas kachavim? What's an example of that? The Nevi'ei Baal are all misnave b'shem avodas kachavim. What's an example of a kovesh es nevuah? Asay Yoine ben Amitai, who withheld nevuah, he didn't want to tell the nevuah. Let me just take a quick look. There's a touch that I wanted to see, but I don't see it over here. Okay. Zok to Gemara weiter. What about somebody who doesn't listen to the Navi? What's an example of that? Kigoyin Chavraya de Micha, the associates of Micha, who Rashi identifies of Michio ben Yemoli. So what does it say in Rashi? What happened? The Chsiv Ish Echad of Bnei Neviim Amar El Re'eu B'dvar Hashem HaKenida. The nevuah was, Hashem told one Navi to go to his friend, the other Navi, said, hit me. Why should you hit me? Because I want to show that Klal Yisrael is going to be getting hit. Let's look at the pasuk. V'ish echad mepnei neviim amar el re'eu b'dvar Hashem hikani no hit me v'yemoyino ish lakois. And the Navi did not want to listen. The Navi A didn't want to listen to Navi B. His name was Michio ben Yemali. Shenisnabe oise ayoim al Achav lipel biyad Aram. He had a nevuah that Achav was going to fall in the hands of Aram. Mipnei shenafal ben Adad biyadoi v'shalchol shalom. Since ben Adad fell into Achav's hands and he wanted to make peace, so he thought maybe that he would succeed. So the Navi wanted to tell him, you will not succeed. He heard this nevuah. But his chaver did not accept. So Michio ben Yemali did not accept his words, and he didn't hit him as he was instructed to. So let's see the Gemara. You know what happened to him? Since you didn't listen to the words of the Navi, you're going to be eaten, but alive. It's a brutal death. He was torn to shreds by a lion because he didn't listen to the Nevuah. That's the Mitzvah B'dei Shemayim. Okay, what about the Navi? What about a Navi who didn't even listen to his own thing? Going Adoy Hanavi. Who was he? There are those who say that Adoy Hanavi was either the husband of this Shunamis, who Elio made Tchias HaMesim on her son, or it might be the son himself that Elio made Tchias HaMesim on. The Chziv, Hichein Tziva Oisi. The Nevi Baal invited him to partake in a Suda for Avodah Zarah, with a Shechtel Avodah Zarah, and the Navi said, I can't go. You know why I can't go? Because Hashem told me not to go. Uchsiv, and then it says later, he was invited by another Navi Sheker, and this time he gave in. Another Navi came along and said, why don't you come with me? He ended up going and partaking in that Suda, and because he didn't listen to his own Nevuah, because Hashem said, don't go with anybody, he was also torn to shreds by a lion. So we have illustrations of all these violations, how they received mitzvah b'dei shemayim. Hakovesh es nevuasai. If someone withholds nevuah, like he gets malchus. Omer lei, I don't understand. There's no lav against it. Man da'achol tamri ba'arbel alaki. Rashi says if you do so, you do a benign thing. You eat dates that are sitting in a sifter. Why would you get malchus for that? First of all, man masrei. Who gave him asra? You can't give malchus without asra. Omer Abaye, Chavrei Neviyoi Minayadi. How would they even know about it? That he was Kovish his Nevuah. Omer Abaye Dechsiv, Kilo Yasa Hashem Elokim Dover, Kim Gila Soidoi. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives over a Nevuah, there will surely be other Nevi'im that heard that. Maybe HaKadosh Baruch Hu was choizer on the Nevuah. Zokt Rashi, Dilma Hadrube Pamal Shamayla, Venichem Alara, Vehem Einam Yodim, they don't know. Veich Masrinu Yasra Sofik. So you're going to tell me how would it be Asra? Because other Nevi'im would hear about it. But what if Hashem retracted the Nevuah? So they can't tell him if you don't say over the Nevuah, you're going to get Malchus. Because who said he'll get Malchus? Maybe the Nevuah was retracted and they don't know about it. So tomorrow, no. In Misa the Hadri you do have a Model Navi. If Hashem would retract it, he wouldn't retract it only from one Navi. He would have retracted it from all the Navim, so they would have known about it, and therefore they could warn him that if he doesn't say the Nevuah, he'll get Malchus. I freak the Gemara v'hayoyna the Hadri v'loy do. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was chayzer on the Gzeira for Ninveh, and Hashem didn't tell Yoyna. There was no Nevuah to Yoyna that they would be chayzer. V'loy do Yoyna Mekar. That Zok Gemara, it's very simple. Why? Because there was not a chazar of the Nevuah. Because the original Nevuah never said that Ninveh would be destroyed. The original Nevuah was Ninveh Napeches. There's going to be a turnover in Ninveh. So therefore, Amrilei, Ninveh Napeches Amrilei. The Nevuah told Yoina Ninveh is going to have a turnover. Iulo Yada, Yoina didn't know. It could mean Lataiva, meaning they'll be turned over because they'll do tshuva. Or means they won't do tshuva and they'll be literally turned over. So therefore, there was no reason to change the nevuah, to retract the nevuah, because all what happened is the nevuah changed its form. Instead of originally meaning that the Ninveh is going to be destroyed, it meant that Ninveh is going to have a turnover, meaning they did tshuva. Okay, what about a mavater al divrei navi? What about somebody who does not listen to the words of the navi? The problem is mina yada the anish. How do I know that this is a Navi, a real Navi? The Navi tells me do this and this and that, and I don't know. How do I know he's a real Navi? Maybe he's not a real Navi. So how could you punish me for not listening to a Navi if I can't determine that the guy's a real Navi? So tomorrow, the Yoiv La'ois. It's speaking where the Navi gave him an ois, so that's how he would have known it was a real Navi, and therefore he should have done it. Since he didn't do it, he's going to have mitzvah b'dei shemayim. I freak the more about Micha, the Yoiv La'ois. Micha never received an ois, the Anish. And he did have an oynish for not listening to the Navi. Zok Gemara, Heicha the Muchsik Shain. Micha, who didn't listen to the Navi, it was already a Muchsik to be a Navi, a tzaddik for Navi Emes. He was known already to be a Navi Emes. Therefore, he doesn't have to give a ois. Because if you don't say that, Avram Bahara Miriya, Heichi Shamala Yitzchak. How did Yitzchak listen to Avram? Avram got a nevuah to Shech Yitzchak. Yitzchak didn't hear the nevuah. So how could Yitzchak have listened to Avram? There's no ice. The teretz is Yitzchak knew already that Avram was a Novi Muchsik, and therefore he was able to accept that nevuah. Or the same thing, And we can say the Lablina strikes again because this is the Haftarah that we learned yesterday. How were they able to be Soimach on Elio to make her bonus out of the base of Mikdash? That's Shchut Echutz. Since everybody knew already that Elio was an established Navi and he was a Navi Emes, they could accept his Nevuah and they could listen to him. Gewaltig. There's a Gewaltig Akasha that we have to ask. I don't know if we have time to get to the Teretz, but the Gewaltig Akasha is, if you look at the Pashas Hamon, it said that on Friday, suddenly, when they went out to collect the Hamon, there was a double portion, the Pasuk says. When you read the Pasuk inside, there was a double portion. And Klal Yisrael didn't know what was going on. This is Shmois Tesvav. Pull it up quickly. We're running out of time, so I have to move very, very quickly. So in Shmois Tesvav, which is in the Parashas Hamon that many people say every day, the Pasuk says, Vahiva Yom Hashishi, who's on the Erev Shabbos, Loktu Lecha Mishnah Shnei Omer Lechad. Vayavoyu Kol Nasiya Oida Vayigid Moshe. They came and told Moshe. So Moshe said, "Oh, that's right. Who Asher Diber Hashem? That's what Hashem told me. Shabbos and Shabbos Kodesh L'Shem Mocher. Shabbos is not going to be mon because it's Shabbos Kodesh. The problem is, if Hashem said Shabbos Shabbos and Shabbos Kodesh L'Shem Mocher, how is it possible that Moshe didn't tell them? How is it possible Moshe didn't tell them? Isn't that a Kodesh Nevuah? How could Moshe have been a Kodesh Nevuah? He only told them after they came and told him that there was a Lechem Mishnah on Friday. So that's the Oyer Chaim HaKadosh's Kasher. How could Moshe Rabbeinu withhold the Nevuah? Zokt, the Oyer Chaim, look at the Pasuk. Vayomer Aleim Hu Asher Dibur Hashem. Hashem said, it doesn't say Dibur Hashem Lemor. Hashem told me to say it over. Hashem told me, but not to say it over. Frank the Oyer Chaim, why wouldn't HaKadosh Baruch Hu want to tell Klal Yisrael in advance about the double and the Shabbos you don't collect, and only on Friday you prepare for Shabbos? Zokt Oyer Chaim, because if it would have been told to them in advance, it wouldn't have made the same impression on them. Because Baruch Hu wanted to beat and forge into our minds that we could know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will make us have enough in the 6 days of work so that we'll have enough for Shabbos. So by them experiencing it first, that put it into their psyche. That's why Hashem didn't tell them about it first. Zokt Gemara weiter. But Yachar Dvar Ma'ela, we're going to go into the Akedah. V'Elokim Nises Avram. Zokt Gemara Achar Mai. What? After what? What was the catalyst for the Akedah? Amar Brechem Shema Yosy ben Zimra. Achar Dvar Shel Satan. It was a response to the words of the Satan. Tichsev Yigdal Hayel Vayigomal. Yitzchak got a little older, and he was weaned. Amar Satan Lefnei Kadosh Baruch Hu Rebbeinu Shalom. Zaken Zeh. Look at this Avram, how ungrateful he is to you. You gave him a child at 100 years. I mean, he should be doing anything for you. Did he ever bring you even a small little carbon? Never mind an animal, even a bird. He couldn't do one thing. This is what you call an Eved Neman. So Avram said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu told the Satan, Klum Asa, Ela B'Shvil B'nai. His whole life is only that he should have this son. And let me tell you how dedicated my Avram is. Imani Aymerloi, Zavach es bincha, Lefanai, shecht your son for me, Miyad Zoifcha, he would do it. So that was the catalyst, and that's why he put Avram through this Nesayin, Miyad V'Lekim Nisas Avram, Vayimer Kachnos bincha, Amar Rabbi Shimon bar Abba, Eino Eloshim Bakosha. Kadosh Baruch Hu is asking Avram, please, he had many wars. He had one great Gibor who would lead the wars and he would fight and win on behalf of this king. Eventually what happened was a great big army came against him. And he told the Gibor, you're my main general, I beg you, be able to withstand this milchama and win it. Because if you lose this one, even though you won all the others, they're going to make everything. So this is what's going to Give us proof that you were really the strong person that you were. The same thing with Avram. You were able to be Amir and all the Nishonis. Please withstand this Nishoin. Because then they're going to machavek all of you great Mesiris Nefesh. As Bincha. So Avram said, what do you mean as Bincha? Beis Banim Yesh. They have two sons. Which one? As Yechitcha, your only son. They're each the only sons. One to one mother, one to the other mother. I sure have to. So Avram said, I love them both. So then Hashem said, as Yitzchak, why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu have to go through this whole song and dance? Why didn't he outright say, take Yitzchak? So Avram shouldn't be nevulval when Hashem springs on him to kill Yitzchak. There was a little bit of a buildup. And we know Avram went with the calmest spirit. You know why we know? Because you know what it says the day he went to the Akedah? It says, Vayashkem Avram baboiker. I know one thing. If I had to shech my son in the morning, I wouldn't have woken up in the morning. I wouldn't have slept the whole night. It says Vayashkem Avram baboiker. That means Avram was able to sleep peacefully the whole night because he was at peace with what the Rebbe Shalom told him. He wasn't mavuvul at all. The Satan couldn't allow this to happen. So Amalei told Avram, and these are quotes from Eoy that of course aren't the words that the Malach Satan told him, but there are ideas that he was trying to use to convince Avram Avinu not to do the Akedah. Hanisa davar elecha hala. I don't understand. Are you going to accept HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this thing that's going to mamish wear you down? Hina yisar terabim. So many people have been punished and been hurt. V'yadayim rafa is techsak. You always were the one who were mechazek people who were going through hard times. Your words always encouraged people who were falling. Now Hashem is going to punish you and tire you out. Avram said, the Rebbe Shalom told me I'm going with Tamimus, I'm doing the Ratzon Hashem. Amaloi said the Malach kept on coming back. Your year of Hashem is making you the fool that you're going to kill your son. That's your whole future. Amaloi said, think who's perfectly innocent that suffers. Nobody. Everybody has averes. So I'm accepting what the Kodesh Baruch Hu tells me. Even the Chazal like Hashmielei. Once the Satan saw that he's not going to get his way, Avram Avinu is not convinced he's going to listen to Rabban Shalom no matter what. Amalei said, the Elai Davar Yegunov. Maybe I'll say I stole a nevuah that I didn't really hear. And this is what the Satan told Avram Avinu. Anyway, it's not going to happen. Anyway, it's not going to go through. So don't do it. Amaloi. So it's either Avram told him, or it could be the Torah is telling him, Hashem is telling him. This is the only of someone who lies. If you cry wolf, even when you're saying the truth, they don't listen to you. Rav Levi Omar, the Achar Advar Meila is not referring to the conversation that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had with the Satan who was challenging Avram's dedication to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Rather, it's Achar Advar of Shmuel Yitzchak. There was a conversation between Yishmael and Yitzchak that prompted Akedah. I'm greater than your mitzvahs. You know why? How old were you by your birth? You're 8 years old. Nobody asked your opinion. You couldn't resist. I was bar mitzvah already, and I accepted Mila. I'm greater than you. Amar loy, you Yishmael are chapping me with one aver that you dedicated to the Rebbeinu Shalom. If Hashem even told me to sacrifice my whole body, my whole life, and miyad, I would do it. Miyad, since Yitzchak offered it up, so to speak. Well, Lakim Nisas Avram. Tanur Abban. Novi Shadich Beskila. Now we're getting back to our parak of Elon and Nachnachim. A Novi who's Mediach gets Skila. Rab Shimon Omer Bechenek, he gets Chenek. Medicha Nidachas, the people who are responsible for being Mediach Nidachas, they get Skila. And Rab Shimon Omer Bechenek, we had this sugi already earlier. So Novi Shadich Beskila, how do we know? My time is the Rabbanon. How do the Rabbanon know that Novi Shadich gets Skila? Osyo Hadacha Hadacha Mimesis. There's the word Hadacha over here by a Novi that's Mediach, and by Mesis it has a Lashon of Hadacha, and we learn Exer Shava. Mal Alon Beskila, Avkam Beskila, and Rashi says this Hadacha is the Rabbanon does not have it from Kabbalah. Rab Shimon Misa Ksivabei. Forget by a Novi Shadich, it says a Lashon Misa, and we know the Chal Misa Mur B'Torah Stam Ein Elachedek. What about Madicha Nidachas Beskila? My time with Rabbanan, Gami Hadacha Hadacha. There's also a Gzer Shava of Hadacha Hadacha. So you have a choice. Oimi Mesis, which is Skila, Oimi Navi Shediach, which according to the Rabbanan is a Beskila. Rabbi Shimon says, no, Gomer Hadacha Hadacha mi Navi, and Navi is not Beskila, Navi is Bechenek. So why don't you learn the Adacha V'nir Yidachas from the Adacha V'Mesis who gets Skila? So I come up because Mesis is Rabbim. No, Mesis Rabbim and Mesis Rabbim. Why don't you learn it from a Mesis? Because a Mesis is only Mediach one person. He gets Skila. Someone who's Mediach Alir Yidachas, that's a Rabbim. And so therefore it's more comparable to a Navi that also is being Mediach to Rabbim, and therefore we say you get Chenek. They done the Mesis Rabbim and Mesis Yachid. Done in Hedid v'Hedid. They done Hedid Navi. Why would you learn Mediach Nidachas from a Navi? Learn Mediach Nidachas from a Mesis, who also is not a Navi. So tomorrow Navi, a Navi is being Mediach. Rab Shimon Kimin Shediach Ein Lach Hedid Gadol Miseh. If this Navi is Mediach, he's not a Navi, he's a Hedid. So therefore it is Hedid Mehedid, and therefore we're going to learn. Rabbim Mirabim, just like the Mesis as a Rabbim. According to Reb Shimon gets chenek, so too just like the Novi and Mediach gets chenek, so too the Mediach as Nidachas gets chenek. Okay, we will stop here. Bez Hashem, and we'll be tomorrow. Tomorrow is the last Omid. Then we're getting into Perek Chelek, which is huge blätter, which will be challenging to finish on time every day, and beautiful Agadah. Everyone should have an awesome, wonderful day.